Welcome to the mind of Stony Face Entertainment.
Yo, so what's up, guys? So let's discuss Man of Steel. So just I know there's a lot of criticism for this, but let's keep in mind this discussion we're having is like a test screening. This isn't the final film. We're gonna discuss our feedback and our opinions for suggestions they should make before they release this for the public. So let's get into it. So Man of Steel. I was so looking forward to this, you know. Superman's my favorite, was my first favorite superhero. Uh, I love the Christopher Reeve movies and all of that. But let's be honest, the flying with today's VFX, it can be so much greater what they could do with that. And the story has been there, so they could just keep the story quality going and pair that with the visual effects of today and the tease of a greater universe. Like this could be one of the best Superman movies in our timeline, or in our lifetime. So in our timeline too. Why not? Okay, so I want to hear your thoughts, but let me go first. So first off, let's see. Okay, so first off, the story. Oh yeah, let's talk non-spoilery first, and then we'll go into spoilers. So not just general broad strokes. So the story, I love the story, but there were some elements I wish they took out because I feel like if you took those elements out, not only would the movie be shorter, but also not only would the movie be shorter, but also like it kind of adds more mystique and more things to look forward to. But overall, I don't generally broadly I don't have much problems with the stories beyond those maybe one chunk of it, one or two chunks of it. But generally, I kind of feel the story is pretty solid. And then the integrity, I feel like the motivations were there for the heroes. Actually, three chunks. The motivation there for the characters, but there was just this one character's decision that I feel like wasn't the right move for this character, especially when you think of Superman's story. I mostly know Superman from the animated universe, the DCAU. So I wasn't feeling this decision. I don't want them to keep this in the film. But the way he shot it though, it was refreshing. Like yes, we've seen this style before, but we haven't really, or at least I haven't really seen this style with a superhero movie. You know what I mean? Like a found footage type, cheeky camera kind of footage. I really felt that, and I really felt Zack Snyder did a really good job of implementing the hometown aspect of Superman because we've got Superman before, but kind of building out Clark Kent a bit more, giving that Midwest vibe to him from since he's from Kansas. I think Zack Snyder did a great job with that. Again, with the little nuances, and the editor they also did a great job too. The fight, the action was shot beautifully. I was really digging it. Like the costumes, I think the suit could have been brighter, but I'll let it pass. Kind of like a TV show, you kind of start with one suit and then you work your way up to the suit that everyone loves, or at least a version of that that you know people would enjoy. And so I'll just give them a pass for the suit, but everything else was generally well done. Like the set designs, it was great. It was really good. The music and the score wasn't really paying attention, if I'm being honest, to the music and how it's making me feel. But that's also probably a good thing too, because if it was bad or it took away from the movie, then I probably would have noticed that too. Okay, the sound design. Okay, so because they gave me a DVD copy, because again, test screening, and we're just giving feedback. The theater, it sounded way better in the theater than it did at home. Watching it at home was like the volume changing was so annoying because you can't always blast the volume. So sometimes when people are talking, then you have to increase the volume. Then when the action is going on, then you have to decrease the volume, and that's so annoying. Like the inconsistencies. It's kind of nice when you have like the right stereo setup to actually hear the differences and have it fully hit like it's supposed to hit, like it does in the theaters. But at home, their standard stuff, I wasn't feeling it there. So the acting was pretty solid. I say the casting choice was great. The acting was great. Not much going on there. So I mostly enjoyed it. It was just those few things I felt could have pushed it a little bit further, and some things that could have been reduced to kind of help kind of improve the quality of the film, right? But my take overall is my take overall is how likely am I to recommend this movie to someone else? And honestly, I'd say I'm likely. So from very unlikely to likely to very unlikely, out of those four choices, A, B, C, or D, I'm going with likely. I'm probably going to recommend this movie to someone, especially someone into superheroes, someone who's into Superman. I'd recommend this movie to. So I want to know what you think, but you can put that in the comments below. But be careful because the comments might be filled with spoilers. So go at your own risk, or maybe watch it again, then watch the spoilers and then comment, whatever fits you. But yeah, I want to hear what you think about this, guys, and how you're doing. So let me know.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. The following segments contain spoilers. The opinions expressed are that of the commenter. Please feel free to have your own opinions and share and discuss them in the comment section.
Okay, so guys, spoiler talk. Let's get into it. All right. Okay, so the story. So I have some notes here from watching it. So I have one, two, the first two, story integration and the screenplay are basically one, but I kind of separated them with little distinction, if you will, that you can follow. I got direction, I got cinematography, editing, production, costume design, original score, sound design, acting, to bring up this total. And keep in mind, these scores don't mean anything. I'm horrible at giving scores. That's why my rating system is very unlikely to very likely recommending. I don't really care that much about scores. I care more about how it made me feel. The movie made me feel. Was it satisfying? Did it live up to its expectations and all that fun stuff? So let's get into it. So starting with story, screenplay. So okay, so here's the part I was talking about, the non-spoiler part. So I wasn't feeling, I wasn't feeling the whole Krypton part. Like it was dope and it was cool, and maybe it could have been filmed and kept for later, kind of like a Quentin Tarantino kind of flick, where like he was trying to kill Bill, like bring the actors actually back 20 years later, but or use it later if you wanted to, since it's already filmed and we're trying to make minor, we're told to make minor changes, as minor as we can, so it won't cost them too much to reshoot this flick. But I feel like the Krypton stuff was too much. I kind of felt like they could have done two origin stories in a sense. Like the first origin story could have been this General Zod story, kind of his Earth origin story. So then that way we're kind of following the journey with him with his Kryptonian heritage. Then the second flick could have been his Kryptonian origin story, kind of show more of the Krypton through Brainiac, and which I'll get into more later how I think they could have done that. But I wasn't digging that. You know what I mean? I felt like they could have teased that more. And if you took out the Kryptonian stuff, it would have made the movie probably under 2 hours with just doing that alone. So more playtime, more money. So again, I loved most of the things about the story. So these are just like, let's say they're starting at the full 20 points. I'm just knocking them down. So I really dig the story. I dig how they made him like kind of relatable. When he was, I love the journey part where he was going through from job to job and he couldn't stay anywhere. He had to get the clothes from the hanger, all that fun stuff, and getting the revenge on the truck guy. That was hilarious. So I like that kind of aspect of he's still doing hero stuff. He just hasn't embraced the Superman element yet. I get that. I love that. Like I feel like it really captured him, especially when they showed him trying to be a hero when he was younger. And since he's from a small town, the parents would come and sit down and talk to other parents. So that's kind of a Midwest vibe, at least stereotypically. So I love that direction from the writer and Zack Snyder. Um, actually, who wrote this? Oh, David Goyer. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So I love that element of it. Like at most, I would be cool if they showed like the ship flying away and the planet exploding to kind of tease it. But I honestly I could have even done without that. Maybe show like maybe I think the movie could have honestly started from when his ship was crashing into the Kent farm. Honestly, that would have probably been a better, uh, more suited opening to me for this movie. And then maybe show uh the if you have to maybe explain the Zod thing when he after he finds the ship in the ice or something. Actually, I'm not sure where they would show that. To be honest, that part I haven't fully thought out yet. But yeah, the movie could have just started, or actually, the movie could have started with the boat scene. The scene with him being a sailor and helping a fisherman and all that stuff. So either the fisherman or no, actually, yes, from the fisherman. So excuse me about the ship from the fisherman. So saving his dad from the tornado. Okay, so another problem I had was his dad, his killing off his dad, because I get the whole prospect of the dad not wanting him to be an societal outcast and all the government and the world turning on them, kind of like how, or questioning them like how he was when he was younger. But from the DCAU, like the animated universe, it was nice to have a hero who had both parents and they're both like his backbone. They taught him it was he kind of had to do the right thing. You know what I mean? So kind of like even the story, if you want to make it realistic, and have the dad kind of be hesitant, have Jonathan Kent be hesitant on him showing his powers, that could have been the turning point. Like maybe um he saves the dog or whatever, or maybe he saves the dad, and then the dad realizes, you know what, maybe I've been wrong all along. Maybe you don't have to hide anymore. Maybe now you have to go further because it kind of felt like the death was almost forced, kind of like it was a necessary um, tool to push the story forward rather than something that logically happened. Like he went out of his way to tell his son who he knows can save the dog quickly, and it wasn't even too far away to make it unbelievable to save the dog and come back. Everyone else had cleared the road, so I wasn't feeling that, and it would have been nice to have him. Uh, yeah, just have the dad around to have it like a normal uh, like picket fence American family to have the dad there instead of just the mom being there because he died because of his fear of what Superman would become. So I feel like I wasn't feeling that. I felt like that could have been an adjustment. Like maybe Superman Clark does something in that moment that changes his dad's mind, like a 180. Like you know what? Maybe I was wrong here. Maybe you could have, you should be Superman. Lean into that more. Be his confidence, his encouragers, all his supporters, all of that stuff. So another thing I didn't like. Oh, but I like the idea of that Superman could be killed and he wasn't needed for the codex because sometimes they kind of tie it to the hero to give the villain a reason to have to keep him alive. But it's nice that they didn't. He didn't need to be alive, and the codex could just be used without him. So that was a dope storyline. Another one I liked was how he was choosing to work with the government, and obviously the government didn't trust him, but they didn't really have a choice at that point. So, but I really like he didn't fight off and have to um, go outlaw, go rogue. So it kind of really suits his character. So that was a nice play there. And I really love the conversation between Zod and Jor-El on the ship when they were having their conversations there. And I also love the conversation Zod had with Superman. Like, all right, bet you're gonna destroy one of my plans, like trying to bring Krypton life, trying to help us, both of us, like at least in his mind. I'm gonna take away what you love and hold dear. Like that was a dope motivation there. And the car, and when it comes to the action, having the car randomly hit Superman mid punch, like that was fire too. Not just like clean punch, like, something hit me, something, like you know what I mean. Like it was pretty solid, and the uncontrolled, and how they show. I really liked another thing I liked about this movie was how they showed Clark learning and adjusting to his abilities when he was younger, and Zod and the other Kryptonians when they landed, like the uncontrollable lasers and all of that. It makes sense. It makes sense that they wouldn't just instantly know how to use their abilities, or that they had them to begin with. The thing that I might let this one slide, but Clark and Lois kissing in front of that many people, like I already know there's all those jokes about Superman's identity not being that difficult, especially with him saving Lois a lot. But that doesn't help. Like I get like maybe if it's the moment, but maybe they could have done that when they landed in the farm where there was barely anyone there. Because like when she starts dating Clark, that I'll just let that one slide. Okay, and then I almost felt like this was like a Brainiac story, almost to a degree. But I looked up a little bit a Brainiac story because he's trying to destroy the Earth, try to replenish Krypton. But then I realized, like, I did some research and I realized you can still do a Brainiac story, uh, even with this play by Zod. So it kind of made me like the movie more because that was my one like question, like, oh, what's Brainiac gonna do, right? But yeah, like the ending of Zod and his cronies going back to the Phantom Zone, that's comic book accurate. Overall, I pretty much enjoyed the story. Besides from the Kryptonian backstory, the extent of the Kryptonian backstory. Oh, and shoot, this is in my story integration. Oh, another thing is that they could have used uh, Zod's sentencing to tease Doomsday because of the torturing storyline. If you, for those who don't know, the reason why Doomsday hated Superman so much in the comics, at least from what I've read, is that the Kryptonians were torturing him as the Kryptonian scientists were torturing him for experimentation because he kept reviving and it really hurt him. So that's why he hated Superman and started fighting him. So instead of using, so this could have been a nice tease for Doomsday too, maybe for the third flick or a future flick or maybe even a Justice. Actually, probably not Justice League level, but another uh, third one, or maybe he could have been Brainiac's uh, villain. Maybe he liked Brainiac because Brainiac saved him or something. All right, I can. Whose line is anyway, or most things in life? The points don't matter. So let's just come up with a score. Okay, so I didn't like the Kryptonian elements, the extended Kryptonian elements. Didn't like Jonathan Kent dying. Those are the major two I wasn't feeling. So let's see. Okay, so out of 20, I'm gonna give it 16. Actually, I'm gonna give it 15. Yeah, 15 out of 20. So story integration. So story resonates beautifully throughout the piece, and it's thought provoking, masterfully woven. So like I said, I really love the nuances of this film, like having the parents of the kids Clark saved, to come back and talk to have a sit down with the parents, being from a midwestern city where family values are heightened. That was a that was a great touch. And the parents trying to protect Clark by pretending they're clueless, by pretending to be clueless. So that was dope and a thoughtful inclusion. But one part I had, especially from the beginning of the film, again going back to the Kryptonian elements, I wasn't feeling uh, I wasn't feeling the fight scene between Jor-El and Zod because, as we learn later in the movie, every child, since it hasn't been a natural birth one, is assigned a role, and that's their role for their life. So if Jor-El is a scientist, even if he had some form of training or service time, there's no way he should be able to beat Zod like that. Like they already looked slow fighting, I get like maybe the age and whatnot, but or the suits or both, but Zod should have been able to be beaten that bad by Jor-El. He should have like even with like that parental like adrenaline. Zod is a trained warrior. He's a leader of a warrior. He's a leader of an army. Like you can't that it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. If Kryptonians are born to serve specific roles in society, there's it doesn't add up. even in the story world. So that docks the story a bit, their points. And when I was talking about the Kryptonian stuff, when I talk about the Brainiac movie, which I'll go into more detail again later, it would have been cool to have experienced this history with Superman, especially people who aren't familiar with Superman. He learns his story for the first time when he's learning about it from Brainiac's knowledge or his data well. Like, oh, like this is the close of my people, like the S, like like seeing that this is a part of his heritage, and make him like tear up when he's seeing his mom struggling to let go of him, like we saw. Um, it would have been a nice inclusion, like to have that emotional weight. And I really can relate to that. That's why I'm bringing it up. Like it's nice to have that um, cultural heritage, something to tie you back, especially somewhere where you know you can't go back, but you're carrying forward and you're representing the best way you can. Like, man, like this was my pupil's symbol, this S or hope, and also they mentioned hope way too much. Like, okay, we'll get back to that. They're gonna reduce runtime. I like how they factor in the breathing problems. Like again, the little thing, the nuances, the breathing problems Kryptonians might have on Earth, especially freshly on Earth, and Clark in the Kryptonian system. That was a nice touch, a dope idea there. Yeah, and I like how the Codex was the beacon that alerted Zod and his people that Clark was on Earth. So overall, I really love how they implemented the Codex into the story, how they integrated it. So let's see, for story integration, I was still give them a five because they're kind of half and half. Like I loved half of the ideas they had here, the other half, like, especially the Kryptonian side, I wasn't feeling. So based on direction, with 10 points of the 100, its story is told in a unified, unique, and cohesive, clear, distinctive style and tone. Relational dynamics are believable. So again, I like the idea of Clark helping people before becoming Superman and struggling with his ideals when he was a kid. I love the heart to heart conversation he had with Jonathan Kent after his classmates' parents comes over to talk to them. Like it felt organic and like a real father son moment, something that would actually happen, a real heart to heart. And it was a nice like coming of age thing too, where he was like, okay, I think you're ready to learn about your true heritage, your real story. So that was fire. Again, love the angry truck driver. Love the human elements that Zach put in here. Zach and David implemented here to try to make him more, uh, remind people of his human side. And let's see. Also, okay, so the negative. Here's my big problem with this movie. There was a lot of telling and less showing. Like the scene where he's learning about his history from his dad on the ship after he takes the ship away from the ice in Antarctica or wherever they were. Like it was too on the nose. And a lot of times he said hope. This represents hope. He will be hope. This will be hope. This will be okay. Show it. Don't tell it as much. If you're gonna tell it, at least like don't overdo it. Like this is hope. Like every like 10 minutes, they or every 15 minutes they're talking about the S means hope or whatever. Like we get it, we get it. And then on top of that, Drow saying, "I intended you to be the bridge between humanity and Krypton." Like man, like Captain Obvious, like okay, look, I don't. That was I could have done without that. Too much telling, not enough showing in those areas. Those scenes could have probably been cut. Like I said, would have been doper seeing the Kryptonian origin story, learning his history with him, having that emotional connect, and also like okay, I think I figured this out after the viewing, but so let me know in the comments. Was it possible to get his wife's consciousness in the Codex too, or when did he put his consciousness into Codex? But like he didn't get his wife or think about his wife. But I'm not too sure. I think they explained it later. I figured it out later. But I think I forget it now. So let me know in the comments if there's a way for that to happen. Mm, okay, so let's see. How do the Kryptonians read minds? Kryptonian read minds, and apparently Superman can also control minds. Okay, let me know in the comments. Okay, just let me know. All right, so but if they can read minds as they've done in the movie, then then why couldn't they read Martha's mind to know that she didn't know where the ships were? Like that was the one moment where they couldn't read someone's mind. Like she could have read her mind to see she didn't know where the ship was, or to see where the where the codex was, but to know where the ship was. But okay, either way, they could have read Martha's mind. They were reading everyone else's mind. Why can't they read hers? And the 0 days with no accident while fighting Zod, that was a funny gag there. And I love the decision to the forced decision Superman had was to kill Zod, as we know. So that I can understand. That was a great decision too. Like I said, with the killing Superman. So well, I love the callbacks. That brings me to my last point. I love the callbacks they had. Like they had the death as a reward in itself. Uh, Exchange that happened earlier, and then it came back at the end on the ship, and then they had the target that ship, the Kryptonian, and they had the target that ship on Earth. So I love the callbacks there, and also the decision to kill Zod. Like Zod was trying to kill Superman to rebuild the Kryptonians, and now Zod, Superman to kill Zod to save the humans. So I love that callback. The like the mirroring. Those a nice touch. I gotta give them that. For okay, so for let's see. Okay, mainly because of this big one. Uh, if it wasn't for the little nuances, I would give Zack Snyder a smaller score because of the mind reading and the history of the Kryptonian elements. But you know what? I really love the nuances. I think that pulls him over. So I'm giving a 6 there. Okay, so cinematography. I've said it enough. I love the 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 way it was shot, the film, the lens, the Zod's entrance was pretty sick. Like the coming out of the shadows, uh, how they filmed Superman flying and the fight scenes. So I'm gonna give that one 10. All right. So editor, love how they do the fight scenes. The scenes move smoothly together, fit smoothly together. So I'll give that 10. Costume, again, wasn't feeling that, but the rest was pretty solid. The sets were pretty straight. I'll give that one a 9. Alright. Sound, didn't really hear, didn't really. You know, I'll give this one a 9 too. Sound design, no, that one's gonna take a hit. I'm gonna give this one. I appreciate the effort. 7.5. Appreciate the effort, but kind of stuck in between there. The acting, again, the fight scene between Zod and Draw was pretty weak. Like even the acting in that element, like okay, so oh yeah, and also like something that makes sense in the fight scene, like they had enough. Not only was the fight bad with Draw and Zod, they had enough time to shoot Draw, Zod's people. They were just there, it's like shoot them. And then, like you saw that the guy get shot. That's one thing, but then you could have, especially again, these are trained military people losing to a scientist. So special, primarily a scientist. Okay, so I'm gonna give. So because of those two, I'm gonna give an 8.5. I guess let's total this up. Okay, so talking to 80 out of 100. Okay, so this is why I was likely to rate. I was likely to recommend it. It supports it. But again, the points don't really matter. It's just talking points. Just again, I am likely to recommend this movie to someone based on my opinions and my preferences. But let's get to Brainiac, Man of Steel 2. So I'm thinking, after researching more about Brainiac and Zod, and seeing how there still could be another movie after this one, it kind of makes me like Man of Steel more, or be more forgiving of Man of Steel. So for a Brainiac movie, I'm recommending that maybe let's still keep the tool where Brainiac research surveys multiple planets, shrinks one city from that planet, and puts on his ship and moves on to the next. So Earth becomes the next one after he does all of that. For those of a side note though, for those of you who don't know, the reason why Brainiac is doing this is because he came back to his home planet and his species died was wiped out by a plague. So he's doing this to save other species through his ruling, because he feels like if he rules, then he can prevent their demise and keep their cultures going. So maybe he's coming to Earth, he's surveying the place, and he takes over people through their devices, through electronics. Because whether we use them or not, we're around them a lot. It's an easy tool to take brainwash people with into subservience, and and maybe make everyone go against Superman to help his case, or because he doesn't want to hurt them. And then yeah, and then he wants to take him back to his home, to his selected planet of Bryak, Bryak. So yeah, let's do that. And let's so in the stories he shrunk one of the cities, the Kryptonian cities, where his family's at, where Superman's family's at, and everything. So let's do that. But to make the decision more difficult for Superman, let's make it so the home planets, the home cities, uh, the cities that survived before the planets were destroyed, their their dependence, their lifelines are dependent on the Brainiac ship, kind of like a museum in a movie with the tripwires. You take the item out and it sets off an alarm, or it causes them to die, to perish. So maybe that's what can make the decision harder, and also to motivate Superman more, knowing that Brainiac might have been behind Krypton being destroyed, or could have prevented Krypton from being destroyed, and learning all his heritage stuff, like I mentioned earlier. Nice touch. So yeah, so that's what I thought of Man of Steel. Gus, I want to hear what you thought of Man of Steel. How likely are you to recommend this to someone based on your opinion and preferences? Very likely, unlikely, likely, very likely. If you have a score out of 100 from all these different categories, break it down for us in the comments. On to the next screen.
Thank you for watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace and out.